Hello everybody and welcome back to this video series on Docker. We've been going over the Dockerfile for the last few videos, and in this video I'm going to continue with Dockerfile, and we're going to work on environment variables, which I didn't bring up in the previous videos, and I wanted to introduce them and talk about them, and utilize environment variables to show the differences between entry point and command inside of our Dockerfile. So let's get right to it. Okay, I'm going to start by bringing up the Ubuntu shell, and I'm going to change let's do a directory listing. I'm going to change directory to the builds images directory that we've been using in our previous videos to build out our other images. If you look in here, we have our Docker logs video that I created for a video that we did in the previous section on Docker logs, and then the SSH server image that we created. Let's go ahead and make a new one called environment image. Let's change directories into the environment image, and as we did in others, let's touch Dockerfile. Once we've done touching Dockerfile, I'm going to do an explorer.exe dot in order to bring up our Explorer window, and I'll bring that on over. And here you can see in here, we have the Dockerfile image from the environment image directory brought up in File Explorer under Windows. So now I can open this with code. And we have a nice blank Dockerfile ready to go. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to declare our base image. This time around, I'm going to use the Alpine 3.14.2 image. The reason why I'm doing this, number one, is Alpine is about 5 megs, and it's a good image to use when you're doing automation CI/CD, bringing up a container to take care of a quick task, then breaking it down. And also I'm using the 3.14.2 tag instead of latest, because if this is a complex Dockerfile, I don't want anything to change in that base image, which might cause trouble for me and inconsistencies that I'd have to troubleshoot later on. If I want to upgrade that image, that base image, I can do it manually when I'm ready to. So for this video, we're going to be pretending that this particular image is going to deploy containers specifically into US West 2 of AWS. So I'm going to declare an environment variable called region, and I'm going to set it to US West 2. And I'm going to declare another environment variable called AZ that I'm going to set to US West 2C. Now I have inside my container environment variables that will define these two specific elements for me that I can utilize later when the container is deployed. I'm going to now do a run, and I'm going to start the Alpine package manager to update, and I'm going to have it add util-linux. Util-linux has a package in it called UUID gen that will allow me to create universally unique identifiers, which are 128-bit keys that will give me the ability to have a unique identifier for this container to be used in various ways. There's plenty of ways that you can use this. This is just for fun and just to show some examples of things that we're doing. So it's kind of out of scope of this particular video, but I wanted to explain it anyway, as I am going to be using it. So we now have what we need for the purpose of this video. So let's create our entry point. Our entry point is going to first do an export, and then we're going to say my UUID is equal to, and I'm going to execute a command called UUID gen that came from this util-linux package. And then I'm going to do a double ampersand for the next command that I want to do, and I'm going to hit the backslash so that I can clean up this and go to a new line. And then I'm going to do a printf, and I'm going to say region equals, and then I'm going to print out my $region with a new line, and then I'm going to print out our AZ. And then I'm going to do 2 new lines, and I'm going to print out my UUID. And here I forgot a quote here, so let's add a quote. And let's save this out. Minimize. Minimize this as well. And we're back at our screen here where that Dockerfile was originally created or touched. And if we cat the Dockerfile, we can see how we have everything that we needed in here. It's now time to build our image. And I noticed something in here that was kind of triggered by this over here. So let's just quickly go back in here, and we're going to add another new line. That way we have a nice clean break out. And also, let's format it a little bit better. So instead of the equal sign, like the bash statement or like these environment variables, we have a nice clean look to our print statement. So let's save this out and bring back up our shell. Let's clear the screen. If we do a Docker images here, just to remind us that we don't have anything new here. It's all what we had before. I'm going to do a Docker build now, and I'm going to tag it as environment image. And I'm going to look for my Dockerfile in the current directory. So it'll load here. And that was nice and quick. Our new image is created. Let's do Docker images again. Actually, let's clear the screen and do that. And we now have our ENV image, which is 15 meg. And you can see the difference between the MySSH server, which is 271 meg, and our Alpine image, which is only 15 meg. So now that we have this up and running, let's go ahead and run our container and see what happens. So if I do a Docker run, let's remove the container when we're done. And we're going to run the env_image. When I hit enter, it very simply at entry point will do a region is US West 2, DAZ is US West 2C, and what the UUID was when this image came up. So that's a very simple look at what's going on with environment variables. So since we also did this with that entry point like we had discussed, let's do an up arrow, but this time let's execute the command hello, or to echo hello at the screen on this for this container and see what happens. When I hit enter, my entry point will supersede any commands that I put on the back end of this container at runtime, so nothing changes. So now let's go ahead back into our Dockerfile, and this time we're going to change entry point to command. I'll save this out, return back to our screen, and let's do a Docker build to our ENV image, or target is our ENV image. Find our Dockerfile here. And now, if I do a Docker run --rm, our image file, we get our command that ran, which is the same as our entry point. But however, this time, if I do a echo hello world and hit enter, you'll see that the command that we had in our Docker file has been overridden by this echo command that we entered at the command line. But when we did it with the entry point, that did not happen. Now, one last thing that I'd like to show is if I do an env command, you'll see that when this comes back, it'll show me all my environment variables, and you'll notice that my UUID does not exist in here. And why is that? Well, the reason why is because that command that actually executed at instantiation of this container to create that UUID and place it into our environment variables was never run. It was overwritten by this ENV command. So we do have our region and our AZ, but we don't have our UUID. So that's about it for this video. I hope that it made sense. I hope that it clarified a little bit about entry point and command, as well as showing you the power of the environment variable entries into a Docker container. Please like and subscribe. I want to thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.